Okay, tonight I'm getting set to make some battle mats for the local club, getting ready for the tournament. So I thought I'd go over what we use to try and build these, because it's always important to have some place to play. So, first of all, you need yourself a good hot glue gun, not one of those cheapy little craft ones that you can get from the dollar store. Go out, spend, $15, $20, whatever you need to get a good hot glue gun. Need an iron, it'll help you get a nice edge on your battle mats, and it'll help get your glue really well sealed into the fabric. And lastly, of course, you need a piece of fabric. Depending on how big you're looking to build, will depend on how big the piece of fabric needs to be. Remember to go a little bit bigger than what you want. Most standard bolts of fabric seem to be wide enough to cover 4 feet, so you just need to worry about length. In our case, we're building them 6x4, so we went to the local store and we got them 2 meters long. Since we're in Canada, we've got to convert it all to metric. That fabric there, I believe, cost us $2 a meter, so $4 for the fabric. Not a bad price. Just remember, you want to try and get something that's not too light, not too thick either. You want to be able to roll it and be able to texture it somewhat, if that's what you're into. Okay, so I've got my fabric set up. As you can see, it's kind of overhanging off the edge just a little bit, just so we've got enough to kind of flip over and glue down. Now, I'm lucky enough to have a tabletop that we put over our normal table for playing that measures 6x4. Nice to have a nice piece of board there to give you straight edges, or to even just help weight down the side while you're working. If you don't have a tabletop you can use, you're going to have to do this probably on a large flat floor area. Piece of wood is going to help you even more, because that'll give you nice straight edges and give you some idea on length. Not to mention someplace to iron and glue on that's not the floor. So what I'm going to do is we're going to go along, we're going to flip up these edges so that we can get them all square on the table. Then we're going to iron them to get a good crease into them. I'll show you that in a minute. Okay, so hindsight, this is probably not the best fabric to demonstrate with, but in case you can't see what I've done, we've ironed the edge here, gone along the whole board edge, and we flip the piece up, ironed along the whole board edge, and now what I've done is I've take the edge, flip it back a little bit, building this whole thing upside down because it's way easier. So now I'm going to take the hot glue gun, run a bead along this whole edge, then flip this back over. So you're going to want your hot glue gun warming up at this point, and you're going to want to keep your iron plugged in because you're going to need it. Once you flip this back over, and the glue's onto both pieces of the fabric, take the iron, go back across the fabric. So you want to try and keep close to your edge, because you don't want to get glue like way out here where your iron's going to touch, and you'll get glue all over your iron and just big mess. Not to mention, wife, mother, whoever is going to absolutely hate you. Okay, so we're going to try and show you here. I've put the bead of glue down, you can probably just see it. I flipped the fabric back over. We're just going to take the iron, go back along this, so that way you get a nice smooth surface along it. Otherwise, once you put the hot glue down, it doesn't take long before it starts to harden. If you don't do this, then you get these big lumpy ridges along the edges of your battle mat, which can be kind of a pain to play on. So, now that you've gone through, you should see that you've got the glue kind of seeping through. Be careful when you're doing anything here. This is still going to be really, really hot. So, I'm going to finish up the other 4 sides, and then I'll come back to you and we'll talk about the corners. Okay, so I've got the other edges done. Now I'm working on this long edge, and as you can see, we've got our fold from the end up here, and then we've got a fold from the edge in here. So in this corner, we're going to end up with this really thick piece because of the way that the folds all work. Now this end's not too bad, you don't have any hanging over top, so you could, just for simplicity, you could just glue this the exact same, you'll just end up with a really thick spot. But down at this end, if you can see here, the edge kind of overlaps on top of what we've already got, so that's not going to work. We need to do something with this corner to make it usable. So there's 1 of 2 ways that we can do it. Easiest way is just take your piece of fabric, fold a triangle shape back over top, and glue it down that way after you're done. The other way, you don't want that really, really thick piece there in the end, fold that back to give you your triangle piece, then cut that off diagonally, and you don't have to even worry about gluing that part. It'll give you a nice smoother edge. In this particular case, that's what I'm going to do, just so that I don't run into any issues with the corners. Okay, and so here's the finished mat. I flipped it over. A couple edges ended up a little bit rougher than I liked. I was lazy. I didn't use the board to properly get them squared. I was in a rush, and there was only one of me today. Usually I have my girlfriend help when we do this. So at this point, now what you end up doing is you can either leave it like this, gives you a nice, solid color to play against, or if you want, you can put some paints and textures on it. Usually what we do, and what I'd suggest is get yourself some sort of cheap spray paint, or even just leftover house paint. You can usually find these at discount stores, or even from the hardware store, Mix paints. Take that paint, go over the fabric, it'll give it like a sealing quality, and then you take textured spray paint and you go over the mat with a textured spray paint to give it some color. And then from there you can just kind of dry brush on different colors that you like. Probably not going to want to use something really expensive like Games Workshop paints. Just go hit your dollar store and pick up whatever they've got, give it a gray color, and then throw the texture over top. Go from there with it.